Hello, storytellers. It's Storytellin' Ron, and I'm here to talk about the game, the release of For the Lord RPG. I just kind of just whatever excited, but I wanted to show you the game. I want to show you some bits so you can get a understanding of how it works. And I'm uploading the shows onto my channel here, so you can see those first ever shows. Those are literally me. I'm trying to figure it out. I was trying, and I think I got it down now, but I'm rewiring my own brain to GM a Christian role-playing game that still feels and plays like good old Dungeons and Dragons and OSRs, good old adventure. But in this world, and the reason I chose this world, 6th century Italy, is because I want like for kids and even for adults for us to like, get a little history, get a little, put a little history in there so that they can get intrigued by that. And you can tell them a little history. It's there during that period of the fall of Rome and the Germanic Lombards, Longbeards coming down, and you can explain all that to your kids and get them to understand that. And then also like I'm going to add the Huns in there as sort of that, they're like scary demonic boogeymen that still roam around, even though they were defeated 100 years before or something like that and pushed out. They're still like, fragments of them hidden in the dark Germanic forests doing their thing. And it's that kind of stuff where you can bring in all kinds of history and have fun with it with the kids. So I want to go over the character sheet. That's kind of the best way for you as a GM to see how simple this game is and then how open it is, open-ended too. It's not only simple, it's open-ended that I feel like you can totally make crazy epic characters just by your own, whatever the player wants to do. I only have basic character classes, but you can totally go into Bard or whatever else, the silly, medieval type things. It's open ended. And I'll explain. Morning coffee. Okay. So let's go. I'm going to switch over to show you the character sheet, and this will be available to download on my website February 1st. And all you gotta do is sign up. And look, I do a couple blogs and newsletters like rarely. I should do more. I don't, but just terrible at this stuff. Anyway, so here's the character sheet. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, so this is the character sheet. This is kind of explaining the character sheet, but I'm going to go over it. So this is just, you're the missionary, you're a saint, you're the chosen. So yeah, I'm a Christian Calvinist creation crazy dude. Okay, so, and yes, this is creation science compliant or whatever. So name player, calling, so you can put in whatever you want, clergy, nun, and this is pre-Catholic doctrine, by the way, pre-Catholic. So the early church, 6th century. To me, I think the Catholic sort of, that is around 1000 AD is when it become really Catholic, like all the rules and, can't marry, the priest can't marry and all that stuff. Somewhere around 1000 AD. I'm going to be also developing a somewhat like Mörk Borg. I'm going to be doing a Mörk Borg style using this system because it's simple enough and brutal enough. 14th century Black Death, Black Plague setting with like like hard Teutonic Knight, witches, satanic, all that stuff. Okay, that's for later, and I'm gonna try to keep it still PG or PG-13. But man, I'm reading The Hammer of Witches. That which is like sort of when the witch trials and all that began in that book. Man, that is freaky deaky. Anyway, so let's go back to fun family friendly stuff. Okay. So here's the character sheet. So the first thing I have here is traits. And and by the way, the game is done. I'm reformatting it now for the Zine, the Kickstarter Zine. And this, I have to spread things out more. It's going to be staple. I can do a hardbound and all this stuff. And I plan on doing that next or later with this as I build up a little more, I guess. I don't know. Or, this is like 60 something pages. And it's going to be staple, so it's going to be a little goofy. They said that it's going to bow a little. But I wanted to, the Zine Quest thing in February Kickstarter. And I want the first one to just be sort of a fun, silly little Zine. It's still based on today's printing prices. It's still a little, it's $25 for the thing. But I want to do that. I just want to have a fun little, I have this one. And I got this from the GameCrafter.com, and they printed out. I have a bunch of these. But it's like it's a little thick. All the pages are thick. I'm trying to. They have pretty thick too, but I'm trying to get it thinner. It's the thinnest that they have, just so it feels like a cool design. And then the pages are kind of coming out of this one, and you can't lay it down flat without really stretching it. And this one, and I think in the very middle spread, I'll try to put the big map on there so that you have a big. Right in the middle is the where the staple is. I'll try to make sure I remember that you get the cool regional map right there of that area. Okay, so character sheet. All right, traits. You get 6 traits: aggression, awareness, secrecy, or secrecy or cleverness, spirit, intellect, and society. So obviously aggression. Now, aggression. So let me explain. I do medieval armored combat. I'm in a list with battle axe, mace, sword, two-handed sword, fighting, real steel, blunt, and what I found is strength is not really the proper term for who is a better fighter in the list, because I've seen strong dudes are not very effective, and little dudes kick butt. It's aggression. It's how aggressive you are with your strength, with your dexterity, that makes you the tough guy or the better fighter in combat. It's the aggression. Awareness has to do with dexterity or agility, because it's not your dexterity or agility to me that makes someone tricky. It's being aware of just being situational awareness. That to me is more about a better fighter who's defensive, or who knows where to go and who knows what to aim at or go for. So awareness is that. And awareness is aim. It adds to your defense. And I'll get to combat here in a sec. And what else? Perception. You're just more aware of things. And to me, when you're being very aware, you're aware of being attacked. So you're aware of dodging and that sort of thing. So secrecy. Secrecy is that combination of dexterity and wisdom or intelligence, where to me it's thief stuff, basically scouting or thieving or stealth. To me, it's not someone who's dexterity that gives them stealth. It's the person that's just more into that sort of thing. Like magicians. Magicians are so into pick locks. Not because any one of them is smarter. It's because they have studied it. They go for it. They it's the person that really is into it, gets into thieving type things, pick locks, being sneaky. So secrecy is sort of like their acumen for going for that, interested in that. Like, I'm not interested in that at all. I might be dexterous, I might be agile or whatever, but I have no interest in thieving type stuff. So, so that's what secrecy is. So if a character wants to be a rogue, a scout, a guide, or a thief, or and obviously, is there a thief in Christianity? No, but there is certainly people sneaking around and opening doors for investigations or whatever. So secrecy is what that is. And in my game, most are not any thieves or scouts. So I have not really role played that out yet as far as a character, but which is strange. But I'm just enjoying the other aspect of the game that I haven't delved into that yet. And I think what I need to do is draw out map pieces for a medieval city, or 6th century, which is where I would do those sort of secrecy type adventures. And I just haven't done that yet. Spirit is your wisdom, your courage. It's your against fear. So all of your like saving throws just correlate to these traits, to your traits. So you don't even have to have a separate saving throw list or anything. So for versus fear, I do a lot of fear, just like regular fear and even like unholy fear, and it's all spirit based saves. And you just get like penalties to the next couple of rounds or whatever. Or you get, I think the latest that I've done for a fear condition is that you're at minus D4 every round, and you just get to save every turn until that fear goes away. So you don't have to worry about duration as a GM, like counting down duration. It's just until that fear leaves, or until something changes the combat or the situation so that your fear goes away. So the GM, at the GM's discretion, you can just end the fear if the the giant that was opposing you has been defeated. And even if the giant was just severely wounded, then that maybe the fear will go away, because everyone's like, oh, we can defeat this thing. So you can end fear whenever you feel like that fear is not imposing anymore. Intellect is for intelligence. It's for reading, history, deciphering codes in crypts and tombs, old Roman tombs and stuff. So that's what intellect is. And I'm going to confess, I think I already did, but there will be not in this game. I've taken it out of this initial game, the Magi, because I haven't play tested it myself, and I haven't built up that yet either. It's like the rogue. So there's going to be a Magi, a type, and he uses intellect, he doesn't use magic points or spell slots. He uses prep points to spend to do his magic, prep points, because you got to prepare the concoctions, the Greek fire, the black powders. So it's prep points that they use before combat, and they have these things ready, to spend to throw fireballs or flashbangs or smoke screens, So that's going to be the Magi. I'll be introducing at some point in the near future. I have it sort of written out. I just haven't, play tested it and used it yet. But yeah, there's prep points that corresponds to the intellect. And just to jump the spirit is here as well. These are faith points. So for my spell slots or spell casting, if you want those terms, there is spell casting in this by the witches and technically witches did not really start until the 14th century, during the Black Plague period. At this point, it was really magicians, but I'm using witches just because that's what we all know. But yeah, that's a scary. I don't want to talk about the 14th century right now. And by the way, my armor is 14th century, so that's kind of like the German Gothic. So, and the game's gonna be called Gothic RPG, I think. So, anyway, why am I talking about that one? Okay, so I'm just excited about all my other settings as well. So, faith points, you use your spirit to spend to do blessings like heal, bless, and all that. And you get faith points for the day, which is kind of like for the regular stuff, non-encounter. Like say your spirit is 5. Oh, by the way, yeah, the traits are similar to D&D ability scores, like to 4 +4, but actually +5. But if you try to go any more than +5, it's very expensive to upgrade them. I'll just talk about that real quick and then go to this. So when you start the game, you can have up to +5 on aggression, let's say if you're a fighter, and then the rest will go down like +3, +2, 0, -1, -2. So that's kind of the options for creating the traits. And if you want to upgrade that, you get, XP. I'll explain that a little later. And then you can upgrade these, but it costs a lot of XP to go from +5 to +6. It costs 3. But from go to 0 to 1, it only costs 1. See, so it's based on the total divided by 2. So if you want to go to +6, you got to spend 3 glory points to do that. So faith points, yeah, you spend your spirit points, whether for the day or for each encounter. So each encounter, you actually get your faith points back. So that's been a lot of fun. Everyone's like, okay, go, because it's your courage, my brothers. It's that sort of, we shall fight on. That's like a bless, or like a heal is, like you have the strength to do it. May the Lord, help you. And, so it's kind of like that sort of stuff. You exhort your brothers and sisters on, and that's what the heal represents. And it's half that and half miracle based, that if it really is God's will, then these things will happen. And when you do your blessings and heals and stuff, it's not necessarily, and I remind the players of this, and you should remind your children of this too. It's not necessarily God's will what you're doing. Because you can fail. You can fail at this adventure or this, whatever you do as a Christian in life, you can fail at it. So don't ever, it's not necessarily that it's his will to do these things, right? His will is beyond our understanding. And we take joy in things that we do for him, and he wants us to do things for him, but don't get this head that everything you do is, God-based. So dying in this game, laying your life down for your brother is one of the, is just as valid as doing what you can for him. Not that God needs us to do anything for him. Anyway, uh, so when you spend your spirit points for healing or blessing in a battle in a combat, you only have like 5, and that can be upgraded as well, separate from the spirit. And I'll get to that in a bit. Society is obviously charm, wit, whatever, and you can become a bard, right? All you got to do is say society +5, right? You're a patron lady and you got a society +5. And then you could literally say, I want to learn loot. So I'm going to skills right now, which is faith and abilities. And actually this should be faith, abilities, and skills. Maybe I should put skills in there. Hey, look, you see me doing something right now for the game. Okay. So what it is you every time you get glory points, which is like XP, you can say I want to spend 1 on a loot playing, and I'm like, well, did you find someone in the village while you're resting to teach you to loot? Yeah, there's a minstrel. You told me there's a minstrel in town. Oh yeah, okay. So, and the patron lady is is the character who has unlimited funds, generally speaking. There's generally speaking, but. And so she can get a loot and learn to play. And so let's say she has society +5 and loot plus D4. So whenever she wants to play the loot, she rolls her D20 plus her society plus the D4 for loot. And, if she rolls really high, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So you really get everyone calmed, or you really, influence, whatever her intent was. You really, wow, that really gets them all emotional or whatever. So you can, there's no skill list. I mean, I could make one, and I certainly will for like an update or whatever, but I don't like categorize anything into skills. Like in other games, I don't have 12 skills that it's up to you to decide. Everything is basically on these rolls. This is the only solid bonus, +5, +4, +3, +2, whatever, or -2. So is the traits. And I categorize anything I want you to do within those. And generally the number to get is 12. But I can make it 14, 16 based on, how hard I think the situation is. I can also add in die ranks. Okay, so that's another aspect of the game. Die ranks are, or bonus die or penalty die, same thing. Is this down here? It's kind of small. I just put this in as a little thing here. D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, right? So she has a loot D4. So she gets a D4. If she says, I want to get better at my loot, so she can go loot D6. She can spend another glory point and get a D6. So whenever she plays it, she gets a D20 plus a D6 plus her society. And I could say it's a 12. I could say it's a 14. I could say there's a -D4 because of the rain and no one can really hear it, or there's a lot of people joking and the environment is so loud, I'm going to give you a -D4. So, and we can either reduce it from D6 to D4, her loot, or I could just roll a D4 and subtract it from her roll, kind of thing. Either one is fine by me. So that's how that works. I'm also doing a narrative thing and this just came up recently, like in a couple of days. So whenever they do have those D4 or D6 or D8, we can have an optional rule is to have a narrative, have it include a narrative thing. If they ever roll a 1 in that D4 with her loot, then something bad can happen, or not fail. Maybe she succeeds at the loot, or she fails, whatever. But if she rolls a 1 in that bonus die, I can say something. You play and it's great, but now you realize a string broke, so you can't use it again until you get it repaired. Or but depending on if she succeeded or failed, before or after the string broke. Or I could say, and then obviously if she upgrades the D4 to D6, D8, whatever, it's going to have a less and less chance of that little narrative fail. And then a 6 or above on these bonus die, so can cancel fumbles. That's one. If a 6 or above will cancel a fumble if you're rolling at 1. And then that too can add a bonus narrative, but it has to be a 6 or above. Now, I don't mind the 4 or 5, if you roll a 4 on the D4, or if you roll a 6 on the D6, or a 5, 4. If you roll a 4, you can maybe a little minor bonus thing, but not much. But a 6 and above will give you an additional, narrative bonus or something. And those same dice can be used for like panic or fear, options as well, which I might do, but not in this game. But although they have plenty of fear I'm just talking about a separate role. Forget that. I haven't figured that out yet. Or if we even need it. Okay, so weapons. Just weapon to hit. Same as like D&D. To hit is your aggression or aim, which is awareness. Damage is very similar to D&D, maybe a little less, but similar. Like daggers are D4, basic swords are D6. Battle axes D10 or whatever. Now you can upgrade those. So you could have a dagger. Say the patron lady, she wants to get better at her dagger. She wants to get more deadly with her dagger. So she can spend a glory point and make her damage D4 go to a D6. Yep. So you can do that. You can upgrade your weapon to be a little more effective damage wise or to hit, not both, but one or the other. So she could have, let's say she did a glory point for each one. So she could have a weapon to hit of, well, her aggression is probably going to be 0 or 1. So she wants to bring that up. So she can have let's say 0 aggression. So she gets +0 to her dagger to hit, but she gets a plus D4. So she can add a D4. That's her, So, and I love the D4, D6, I love that because it gives you a range of bonuses, not just a constant, like a constant +8, at 7th level, when you get to those levels. And there's no levels in this. I don't want a constant number except for the traits, and other than that, I want the numbers to have this, like, it could be really spectacular or it could be a 1, and that's how I feel when I fight. That's how maybe I have a D10 or, skill in my fighting, but boy, do I roll a lot of 1s, with that bonus, that skill bonus that I have, that experience that I have. Burden is, so how many items you can carry. So you can carry 2 heavy, a spear and a shield or whatever, and then a medium. And that's also armor too. So if you have armor like Brig, it's a heavy 1, heavy. So like, even though let's say plate is, the plate is too heavy. I wear plate, it's heavy. And then really, if I wear my armor, my great helm, and say a great sword, I'm literally at -D6. I really do feel like that, burdened. I don't feel like it's normal at all. Absolutely not. Yeah. When I'm looking around that thing, I think I am at -D6, even for swings, because when I'm swinging regularly, two-handed sword, I can hit the pel very fast. But in my armor, it's really hard. So that's cool. I think I'm going to make my plate mail heavy too, I can still make it heavy 1 because then you got to wear the great helm, which is heavy, or I think it's a medium or heavy, the burden, and then the sword is heavy. So you're at a penalty just to hit, but you're a tank, so that's the trade-off. Anyway, so Brig, which is what most of the guys in the thing wear, Brigadine, which is leather and steel pieces. That's a heavy, and then so so it's a very simple burden system. You can carry 4 lights, and like I'm saying is that the armor, even though it might be heavier than the battle axe, right? But you're wearing it all over you, so that's why it's heavy 1, and the battle axe is heavy 1. Even though the armor is like heavier and has more, it's spread out. So the burden is based on not just the weight of something, it's based on how you're able to carry it. Like a longbow might be pretty light, but you should call it a heavy 1 because it's a rather big thing that you have to deal with and manage. So there's that. And while I'm here, trade skill is just your coins, and it just uses the die ranks. Like, so if you get a treasure, you go up a die rank or 2, depending on how big the treasure is. So if, let's say your trade skill starts with society and then at 0, but let's say you guys find treasure. So now your trade skill is society plus D6. So whenever you go into town, you can roll and get something, or, trade with plus D6 roll. And then if you succeed, then you get whatever you want, the trade goes down to D4 because you've spent some of that. So I'm trying that right now. Let's see if that's fun or not. But for the most part, what I have actually been doing in the game is very loosey-goosey as far as that, because they always have a patron lady, and so they tend to buy what they need automatically because of that's her skill, or some of her ability. So I haven't played with trade skill a lot yet, but that's what but I have put it in there to utilize. So we'll see. So that's just an option. You could do it the trade skill, or you can do it just role playing story wise. And I kind of kept it sort of, loosey goosey. so far. Okay, so that's range is, and ranges in the game for combat is just whatever, whatever works, short. I mean, melee, short, medium, far off or whatever. But what I'm saying is I'm not, we're not measuring out inches or nothing. It's you as a GM and them, you decide, are they close enough to get in with them? Fine. Does it look like she could shoot the crossbow and it doesn't look like it'll get a penalty? Fine. Just whatever. It looks a little far off. I think you're gonna get a minus D4 to that shot because it's a little far off. And he's over there, So I try to use my paper cutout miniatures and the VT Foundry. Or not try, I do use, but I don't worry about the ranges. I let them just kind of do their thing. And does it visually look like they would get there? So that's how I do that. And broken is just, you can decide if something breaks or it has a minus D4 to it. So if the dagger, if she rolls and rolls her attack and maybe rolls a 1 on her bonus die or rolls an @1, one option you can have is have her dagger be at minus D4. Minus D4, to damage or minus D4 to hit, because it's just, she whatever, broke a bit of it or whatever, dulled it or whatever. So then she has to, get it fixed. Then that's the same with weapons and everything else. Okay, so defense. So defense is 12. And then you can add, and the factors are, helm. There's only 3 factors really for defense. Aside, cover, but then there's shield, which is +2, a regular helm, which is +1, and a great helm, +2. And a great helm is a great helm. It really matters. I've noticed I get hit a lot in the helm, and to me, it's like a shield. It's there, it's huge, it's heavy, and when they swing at you, you tend to block it with your helmet. I mean, so to me, the great helm, and it takes away from your secrecy. There's a little factor there. Like if you have a great helm, you cannot do much in secrecy, like stealth or whatever. But a great helm is just, I love my great helm. Or the helms. And so that adds to your defense. So let's say you're maxed out on that. So your awareness is +2, your great helm is +2, and you have a shield +2, that's +6. So you can have an 18. That's pretty much the highest defense is 18. Unless you're, I don't necessarily have magic items kind of a thing. I have an option for master crafted items, they're much, master crafted. Maybe an ancient Roman master crafted item that you find. The other thing that you could do too is my grandfather's spear, which has been carried down from family to family. So that could be like a +1 spear, because it's just his family heirloom or whatever. But again, it can have wear and tear. It can be broken and fixed or whatever. So that's defense. Defense is basically 12, and I usually 12, 13, 14 for minions and stuff like that all the time. Armor save. So another big thing is you can get, in my armor, I get hit all the time, right? But does it do damage? Does it hurt? Does it wear me down? I get hit a lot. Armor works. So yeah, every armor has a D to reduce the damage. So if her dagger hits me, I have, for my plate, I have a D10 or D12 armor defense. So she does a D4, and there's no aggression bonus to that damage unless she upgrades it. But let's say she does a D4 dagger attack on me, the patron lady. I have a D10 reduction in damage, minimum to 1. However, as a GM, I'd probably say they could go to 0 based on that. There's a little bit of a wiggle room there, especially if little rats bite you, they get a D1 or D2 damage, and then you have an armor save of D4, and let's say they do 2 and you do 1, so they give you 1 damage. I mean, I'm sorry, I take that back. Let's say they do 1 damage, and then you have armor, so you reduces it down to 1. Not for a little rat, that'll be 0. But for most weapons, if they do 1 damage and you have armor, you take at least 1, minimum of 1. So even though my armor can reduce down the damage of most things, I will take a minimum of 1. However, again, I'm going to be I got to think about that a little, but I'm going to be a little loosey-goosey. If the armor is that much better than the weapon, armor save wise, maybe it goes down to 0 actually, because of how much better it is. So I might want to add that in there to the thing. I'm just thought about that right now. The minimum of 1 damage every time if they do get hit is a rule, but I think I might change that to, the comparison of the different weapons and armor. If the armor is just that much better than it, then it doesn't take anything. So combats can last a little long, even though you've got very few hit points of vitality here. Even though you have very few hit points in this game, some of the combats have lasted 40 minutes, and basically because of the armor saves. The longest ones lasted that long because they had armor saves plus they were unholy, so they had another protection there, and the characters didn't necessarily understand or have a way of defeating of countering that, which there is. In the blessings and stuff, but whatever. Okay, but that's typical of first low level anyway. So, vitality is your hit points. Also, there's wounds. So this is this area is just to take notes of how much damage you've taken, and also there's wounds. So you can go down to 0, and drop and do the life saves similar to D&D, but also you could get grievous wounds, and grievous wounds you get from a nat 20. You get a grievous wound. And from I do have it where a dagger or crossbow bolt or an arrow, if they do their maximum bonus or damage, I think it's 4 and above actually, 4 and above D4, because they all do like D4. So if they do 4 and above, they really puncture and do a terrible wound on you. So what is a grievous wound? A grievous wound is, say, for the daggers and arrows, is you get a minus D4 now for every roll, minus D4. And you cannot heal that normally, right? You have to rest, or the nun has Miracle of Healing, which will heal these grievous wounds. The cleric does not, the male cleric. But they are meant to be wounds that last, like you can't heal them normally. You can't heal them with rest unless it's long rest, like in a hospice or in a town, in between missions where you get to rest. So in a combat, and the nun cannot heal you in the combat. She has to heal you, or she can. I did play it that she could. I'd like to change it though, that she could only do it between when you're resting, she can do it. So I don't want her to have to do that in the combat. We'll see. So that it makes the wounds a little more scary. So when you get a wound in combat, you have to have you got a big old slash and gaping wound. I don't have bleeding yet. I haven't thought about that, but the gaping wound is you're at minus D4 to every roll. Or rather, if it's a dagger or bow, it's usually like a puncture wound, and that thing is deep and that hurts. And every time you move, you're at minus D4. A battle axe though could do like I think it's D10. So if it does a crit, you're at minus D10. Now, if you go past D12, you're dead. Like just dead, no saves, nothing. So that's what makes this a little scary. That makes this brutal. So if you get that can be quick. Then if the battle axe crits somebody, they're at minus D10, and if they take 1 or 2 more wounds, they're dead automatically. And a battle axe does a crit on a 19 and 20, so that's what makes them formidable. And obviously I make them go last. So how does initiative work, since I'm talking about combat? There's no initiative roll. Even though I love initiative rolls and they're fun, and you can certainly use them if you want. The way I do it is narrative. I just go based off what feels good in the story. Who looks like they should go first. I generally have the minions and the little craziers go first and attack. Because especially if they're acting vicious, and usually the players, the Christian missionaries, are sort of talking or trying to be, trying to back off. So I'll usually have the crazy violent ones attack first, and the Christians have to then absorb that and then counter. So for clerics and nuns and doing blesses or heals, I let them do them whenever. It's a free action. So if the crazy minions attack, if the cleric says I want to bless everyone, I just let him do it right then and there. Fine. I'm loosey goosey with that. I'm not going to be that controlling. And they can do things hindsight too. Like the paladin guy can attack, and then he wants to do glory for damage. He can wait to see if he hits or not, and then add the glory to it in hindsight if he wants. That's fine by me. I think I'm considering doing a reward that if they do it, and a lot of times they just do it before, not even hindsight. They just do the bless or the glory immediately. And so if they do that, I think I want to do a thing where the narrative bonus comes into play there. But in hindsight, you don't get a narrative bonus. If you roll and you roll a 6 or above, you don't get the narrative bonus. You only get it before if you do it with the roll. So if you do it in hindsight, you don't get any kind of narrative bonus. So I kind of want to do that, like that encourages them to roll, add that before. Yes, I need to get a new chair. So that's that aspect of it. So abilities and skills, the last part here. And look, this is, it's a very open-ended. So you can pick any skills you want. There are abilities in there that I've listed off. And they're like talents or whatever. And you can buy those with glory points as well. And upgrade them with, because you'll get like a D4. Like for the nun, or for the women, they have cleanliness ability. They do. My wife has the cleanliness ability. I don't. I can do it. I have a bit of a skill in it now, but I don't have this, natural ability, whatever, or that kind of ability. But so they have this cleanliness ability that they get, and it's D4. So and what does that mean for does that even play in the game? Of course. What if you're resting in a town or in a village, and the nun says, "I'm going to clean this area up"? I'm like, oh, okay, So she rolls her a cleaning ability and gets a high number, a 20 or an 18. I'm like, okay, so everyone. They all get a D4 to healing. They get when they rest in there, they get a D4 to whatever, comfort. You get an extra D4 to your faith points. I'll do like a little thing like that. Just give them a little throw out bonuses if she keeps the place clean. It's that sort of game where you kind of just throw out, and that's the inspiration points. It's like D&D inspired points. You can get D4, D6, D8, and you can mix it. You can, if you get a D8, you can then just use the D4, and then that D8 goes to D6, goes down to, so you can split it up into the little die ranks, and use them like that. And that's, by the way, how you use, how the spirit points work. You spend them down here on deliverance, the three basics: deliverance, duration, and deluge. Deliverance is how much you bless them, right? I give them a D4. Duration, okay, I want it to last for D4 turns, so I roll a D4 to see how many turns it's going to last. Deluge, how many do I want to affect? Okay, I want to affect D4 of my friends, and to bless them. So that's 3 faith points right there. 1 for deliverance, 1 for duration, and 1 for deluge. And that works pretty much for all the different blessings and miracles that they want to do. If the nun has a repulse or repel, like she can repel a villain from attacking her, she uses deliverance to repel him, and he has to resist or whatever. Which is duress. There's a duress. That's a fourth one. And the fifth is distance. So I'm using all these. And distance is just how, if you spend 3 faith points, I'll do medium. If you spend 5 faith points, you get long range. So distance is kind of free. I don't really, I don't like worry about what any faith points, like if they're spending, if they want to go far with just one bless, like that person way over there, then I'll just say, okay, give me a faith point for that, and then I'll let you do it far away. Brother, you can do it. Like they're yelling it over there, and then they get the blessing. So it's that kind of open ended. And again, with skills, you can pick any skill and start at D4. I want a smith, so you can blacksmith. I want a blacksmith, or I want a tinsmith, and I like the skills to be kind of specific. So if they want a blacksmith, that's fine. Do you have all the tools, or you have access to it? Let's role play that, but then you get the D4. And the way glory points works is experience points. Is there's 3 categories, and you can get up to 3 per session. Usually it's 1 or 2, because I only play as you can see in episodes, I'm breaking them down into hour sessions, which work great. But obviously when you're sitting around the table, you can do 3 hours. If you do a 3-hour session, generally should be 2 to 3. The first level of glory point is, have you fought an enemy and defeated him, or had him surrender, or have you preached to any individuals, or helped convert or assuage anyone? So that basic XP or glory point. Then the second level of glory point is, have you defeated a leader or discovered leaders and going up against them, and like the pagans and the conspiracies and stuff. So that's kind of like the bigger level, but it's only 1 glory point for any of those. Then the third glory point you can get is, have you planted or financed a church? And that's usually the denouement, the ending of the mission, where you get the treasure, get the whatever, and then you bring it back to the town or village and either help free the people to then convert and plant a church, or there's a failing church there, and you go and give them the treasure so they can start their missionary work and feed the people and get them gathered, and you've cleared the pagans. So that's the third glory point. So that's how that works. You can get up to 3 glory points in a mission. And then you could spend those on upgrading any of these things. The armor save. Yep. You can upgrade the armor save. You can say, I work on fitting my armor better so that now it's a D10, because Brigandine starts off at D8 and then you can do it. Now it's a D10. And vitality, you can add another roll to your vitality. And again, the points, the cost for that is based on how many you've already have. So if you all start off at 1, but let's say you go to 3, you want to buy, a third roll to add to your vitality. That's going to cost 3 divided by 2 is still 1. Okay. So 4. So if you go up to 4 divided by 2, it's 2 glory points then to do the 4th die roll to add to your vitality. No rerolls. If you roll a 1, you take a 1. Vitality is meant to be low, even for giants and dragons. They're going to have maybe 50 or 60 vitality at the most, I would think. So and so thusly, when you go out and fight things, you don't have to, like I'm using D&D terminology here, but you can continually fight goblins and orcs and they'll still be dangerous. But for here, it's cultish warriors and beastmen, which are cultish beastmen and wolf guys and all that, dressed in that stuff and possessed and beastly. But they're going to be in that same range. So you don't have to constantly, in this game, you don't have to go to 10th level. There's no 10th level. There's no godliness for the characters. You're at that level the whole time. You're a little better here, a little better here, but you can get grievous wounds. You can get beat up by the little guys. So it's going to be that same area throughout the game. I think, I believe, based on what I'm looking at here and how it's been playing out. Okay, so that's my little babbling on about the game, how it's working right now, or the character sheet, and what's going to be released very soon, I guess in the next couple of weeks. And I got to get to work on my Christians in space sci-fi. I have a post-apocalyptic one, which is pretty much done. I'm playing it out right now, role-playing it, play testing it, but it's working great. The only thing that's changed really is that secrecy is now technology in the character sheet. That's kind of like the only thing that's really changed. So instead of secrecy, you have technology, and you can use an awareness, can use stealth or whatever. But technology is like you're an engineer or like a tech guy. Not the scientist is still intellect, but the engineering mechanic is technology, which is this one. But everything else is pretty much the same. And that's the post-apocalyptic one, Gamma Worldy. And I'm doing a Star Warsy. Yep, Star Warsy. I'll pitch that one later to you guys, Christian Sci-Fi. But I'm working on that and starting up a campaign and a show, which I need to work on right now because I'm really behind. Even though I plan this out badly because I got the Kickstarter to work and finish this. And I got to get this ready for the printers too. I'm going to do a test print here any day now. And I'm doing a local printer here in Hollywood because I want to support small businesses. So ergo, that's the pricing and stuff is maybe a little more, but I want to try to do a local printer, a local business instead of constantly doing, big stuff or whatever. So that's what I'm doing a local. I want it hands-on, I get it that day and I'm going to be shipping these out myself, the Kickstarter. So hopefully you all will appreciate that, enjoy that. I hope I appreciate and enjoy the process as well with a local printer. So, okay, so that's it. That's my babbling on for this. I hope I was recording. All right. I'll talk to you soon. And more shows are coming. I'm working on those. I'm editing them and just making sure they're good. Whatever, but they're good. Anyway. All right. Thanks.